I need my baby. All right, we are live. Looks like everything is good. Welcome. Welcome, guest, community member, to another live. I don't know if I'm going to call this your solution. Actually, I'm a little bit bothered because I tried to live stream to different platforms, and for some reason, I paid the bills. The system blocked me. So here we are, Coach Santos, Stockton, California. Please give me some of your time. If you're a problem gambler, you're going through something difficult in your life, you're facing trauma, you don't know what to do with yourself. You don't know what to do with yourself. Stay with me here for a little bit. Let's talk about this topic. Let's talk about boundaries of the mind and what is it masking? What are you masking with your gambling? Right? What is it masking? What is the gambling actually covering? You may have no idea. Okay, the tab is using your, okay, good. I'm just double checking on that. You may not have any real idea as to why you're truly gambling, but you know that gambling is covering something up in your life. Maybe today, maybe the day that you begin to realize what's being covered. Hang out with me. I see you on the other side. Thank you. So I'm going to be here for a little bit. I am going to be here for a little bit. And we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about what is masking. What is, have you seriously considered this? You know, what is your gambling? What is your addiction? What is your thing masking, hiding, covering? You don't want to gamble. If you're like me, you don't want to gamble, right? If you're like many others that are hurting, especially if you're losing money, you don't want to be gambling. Why do you find yourself gambling? You're losing money. You don't want to gamble, yet you find yourself gambling. You find yourself in this crazy cycle. And what's going on here? I need some understanding so I can figure this thing out. Welcome, guest. I see you. I see a few guests. I'm going to wait a few minutes here. I'm going to turn on a little bit of, I don't know. Well, no, I'm not going to do that. All right. Actually, I am. Because we're going to look at a few things here in just a moment. And we're going to get into this topic. Let me see if I can do this. Hero. I'd like to put a little sound in the background. Hero. Just for a minute, a little bit here. And we're going to, hero, where are we at, heroes? I don't see it. Heroes. Let me see, not that one. There we go. All right, we found something here we can play with for just a minute. Welcome as you're coming into, you know, if you have a question, you've got something going on in your life, let's bring it up. I'm facing some of the toughest things in my life right now. And I'm going to share with you, we're going to talk about this, boundaries of the mind, and what is your gambling masking? Instead of focusing on the cause, we're focusing on the symptom. Now, I want to share with you something that I recently have experienced myself. Maybe you can relate to this. It may help you understand what you might be going through or why you're even gambling. It may help you here. But we're going to look at this. And so let me get, I'm trying to, and I'm going to see if we can make some, oh, what's going on here? Why is this? I wanted to put something in the background for a little bit. Okay, here we go. All right, we're back. Well, I don't see anyone coming into the comments, but I'm going to share. Maybe this is a little bit too loud, but I'm going to share anyways. I recently started experiencing some turmoil in my own life. I overcame gambling several years now. I'm very proud of that I overcame gambling. I've had a lot of support. I've had a lot of support, especially in the beginning. And when I say support, I created my own support because I didn't have anybody. I was ashamed. I did not want to let people know out there that I was gambling. I didn't want anybody to know. So I started creating videos on YouTube, and I would block the videos. I would, just I wouldn't let anybody see them. And then I made a commitment to myself because I was tired of losing a lot of money. I was tired of losing my life. I was tired of losing, people losing trust. And losing trust in yourself is a horror story. When you lose trust in yourself, well, I overcame gambling 32 plus years. I wrote a book. Actually, I've written several books. They're around here someplace. And little did I know that I would begin to uncover other things in my life. You see, gambling was actually hiding a bunch of stuff. Gambling was masking something underneath. I didn't quite understand that because all I wanted was I wanted to somehow stop the gambling, or, in actuality, I wanted to win. Right? You go to the casino, you want to win. That's what you go there for. You go there to have a good time to a certain degree, but most importantly, you're escaping reality and the world and people and all the stuff, and you're trying to escape yourself too. Because when you're in the casino, you're really not thinking too much about your health. You're not thinking about yourself too much. There's something else that you're focused on in there. Well, I broke the curse because I hit rock bottom. I hit rock bottom in 2014, and things weren't going well for me back then. So I began a journey of exploration. And little did I know that I didn't think I would get free. I didn't think that I would get free. Okay. I have, but I didn't think I would become free, because when you're caught up in gambling addiction so deep, you lose confidence in yourself. Your confidence in yourself is gone. And you're living in a trauma that you've induced. You actually begin to believe that there's no way out. You become so fearful of yourself, and you try to quit, but you go right back. You try, but you go right back because your mind is like, it's not working. It ain't going to happen. Your mind. So I began to think to myself over the last few years, I've been free, let me say, since 2014. Well, that was my beginning journey, was in 2014. But I've experienced a lot of great things over the last few years. Now, I began discovering recently that there was hidden trauma in my life. There was trauma that was blocked, probably for good reasons. Yet, that trauma has been affecting my life. And part of the reason I didn't understand any of this was because gambling was masking it big time. Gambling was covering it. It was hiding it. Let me say that I'm a little bit angry. I'm a little bit angry today. I'm a little bit angry because I feel like um, there's been some injustice done in my life. Some of it I had no control over it. And so now that I don't gamble, I'm beginning to see a lot of other things in my life. And I like the fact that I'm seeing these things because it's almost like I'm rebuilding I'm rebuilding, or better yet, it's almost like your body is actually going through scar tissue building. You know, we when we hurt ourselves, we create scar tissue to heal. Yet those areas, especially if it's a broken bone or a cut that you can, see, generally there's an area there that is not like the rest of the body. Yes, it's been healed, it's been fixed, but it has scar tissue over it. It has scar tissue over it, right? Or in it. However, the that fibrous material, that collagen that forms in there, there's a lot more. I'm not a scientist, but so we have that injury. And let me tell you something. If you ever have an injury like that, a very, very bad injury where you get like a finger crushed underneath a cabinet on the back of a bobtail truck, which I've done twice, I've got a really bad scar here. It's very sensitive. It's very sensitive. And folks, what happens is when you're a child and you go through some horrible thing, which is what I'm starting to realize myself because I've been there. I've gone through it. I went through severe trauma at a very early age. And it was blocked out of my mind. I didn't understand it. I still don't completely understand it, but I'm beginning to see how these things have affected me and why all of these other areas of my life were basically covering all of this, almost like a scar tissue. But even scar tissue, as it forms, you still have to protect that area. And I believe the gambler is just opening wound on top of wound, if that makes sense. The problem gambler is basically opening wound on top of wound. Sometimes, we injure ourselves and it's a quick healing. There's some kind of a scar tissue there. Sometimes we injure ourselves and it takes more time. It's a bigger area, scar tissue. I'm starting to realize that there's a lot of scar tissue that we must protect, that you must protect. There are areas of your life that you must protect. And then there are areas of your life that basically, more or less, you kind of have to go through a surgery to kind of get rid. These are the things that are leading you to gamble. These traumas, these hidden traumas, these things that are deep inside you, friend, on the other side. This is what's causing you to do what you do. Scar tissue over time, it protects an area, right? That's what scar tissue does. But what happens when that area becomes vulnerable? Now we're talking about physical scar tissue, but what about trauma that's been done to you that was not seen? Trauma, a trauma that you went through, whether an adult or a child, even, and some of the worst, I'm learning this myself, some of the worst abuse that a man or woman can go through is sexual trauma. sexual trauma. I was almost afraid to talk about these things. I was. But I realized that, if people are going to heal, if people are going to stop gambling, they really need to look at why. They need to look at the root cause. You need to focus on what is causing you, what may be a contributor to your problem gambling. Something's causing you to do something almost against your own will. You don't want to gamble. You don't want to lose money. You don't want to lose your children. You don't want to lose your relationships, right? You don't want to do that. But yet that's what we're doing. That's what you're doing. It's like scar tissue builds, scar tissue, there's damage. Scar tissue starts to build to protect the area, and then there's damage. And then we wonder why. And I fear for some people, there's people on this planet that have done that have gone through so much trauma, they never found an outlet for it. They never found an outlet for it. They never found a way to release that anger, that pain, that injury. They never found a way. And some of these folks get so lost in their minds that you can't even have conversations with these folks anymore. They're no longer in the right mind. The mind is gone. It's gone. You can't talk to a person about emotional intelligence. You can't talk to an individual when the mind is completely taken over by something like gambling or an addiction or a philosophy, a belief. We get indoctrinated with beliefs from very early on. What happens? So I quit gambling, and now I'm having to face other issues in my life that were hidden because of gambling. Welcome, Barry. I see you there. Barry Robb says it was and will forever be a coping mechanism. One of the most dangerous coping mechanisms. Now, it is a good thing that if you're still alive, right? If you're still alive and you are problem gambling and you're noticing that you're problem gambling, that ought to tell you, you know what? I need to build scar tissue. I need to let scar tissue build around this area of my life, because if not, you're going to reopen that wound. You're going to reopen that wound, and you know what? Then it will never heal. Right? If scar tissue builds on a wound outside your hand or your arm and you keep tearing that open, you expose it, you make it vulnerable, it's not going to heal. It's going to get worse, actually. It'll get worse. And that's exactly what we do with gambling. And all of these things we hide, trauma. Most men out there, like myself, I'm one of them. Not too many people understand what I'm currently going through. So I have to begin to understand what I'm going through. I've talked to a lot of counselors, a lot of people, psychiatrists and stuff. But, I've noticed over I do a lot of reflecting. I've noticed that these individuals that I've been with, they were great listeners, and they shared some good stories with me, but they didn't understand what I was trying to say. Hey, I've got scar tissue inside me, man, and I'm realizing those scars are opening up. What's causing this? Why am I repeating such things? Where does that come from? It comes from the boot camp that you go through as a child. Let me read something to you about scar tissue. And for some people, yeah. And by the way, I see you on the other side. I see you. I know that you can't chat. Maybe you can't chat, but maybe you can. You can ask a question. Let me read something to you about scar tissue. And I wanted to share something, an experience that I've had. Me and my brother, I'm the middle. Okay, my brother's older than me. I'm the middle. My sister's younger than me. Unfortunately, we all have had severe trauma. I don't want to get into that here. I just recently found out my sister never, I had an idea, but I didn't know. My brother and I, we knew when we were little boys, we learned how to keep secrets. How did that happen? How were we manipulated to keep a secret that shouldn't have been kept? A secret that would haunt us 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 years later, unless we repair and unless we heal and unless we find a way, a release. You see, there's a lot of men and women that are gambling today because they are severely hurt inside. Somebody did some bad thing to you on the other side. And gambling is masking that. You need to refocus and say, wow, why not focus on the cause? What did this to me? Or at least what contributed? Because maybe it wasn't a fully, you just started gambling, that developed over time. But I can show you, and I can assure you that when you break through gambling, when you break that curse in your life, especially if you've been gambling for a long time, you're going to see the root. You're going to see what's underneath the earth in your life. You're going to see what's underneath that scar tissue that has been built. Let me share something with you here. And I am going to share about my brother, a letter that I wrote to my brother. I'm not going to read the letter, but I'm going to share some important points with you on the other side, especially if you're a man. But again, this same thing happens to women just like men. The only difference is that a woman's makeup is totally different than a man, completely, right? Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Man, Adam came from the dust of the earth. The woman came from the rib of his chest. Of course, they both come from the same thing, the same makeup. Those illustrations speak about spiritual things that very interesting about God's Bible and stuff. But let me read to you about scar tissue here. I was just reading a little bit and just thinking about scar tissue. And scar tissue, what causes scar tissue? Scar tissue it consists of tough fibrous protein called collagen. It forms when the body repairs a wound. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe you can. Yeah, there you go. Oh boy. But so common causes of scar include injury, surgery, and infection. A scar tissue begins to form. It may appear red, raised, and hard, but over time it fades, flattens, and softens. And so most scars, most scars fade over time and don't cause long-term health problems. How a scar changes depends on its location, size, and type. A scar may fade so much that you can barely see it, but it never completely goes away. It never, if you break your arm severely, what are the chances that if you don't protect that arm, that area, it'll break again? Subconsciously, your mind will begin to protect that arm without you even thinking about it at times. All you got to do is just start thinking about it, and your body will automatically protect that arm. It's a great system we have in the human body. So, these tender areas, trauma, let me see, trauma and maybe time, you could say time, right? Time kind of covers it a little bit. It doesn't heal the trauma. Time doesn't heal the trauma. It kind of lets you let other things over, kind of cover it up, shove it underneath the carpet, if you will. Well, we know people that have all of these things later on in life begin to get addictions. They begin to get really strange. They get angry, all kinds of different things. You get illnesses. Things begin to show up in your life that you didn't know. And then you question, but why am I going through this? You go to the doctor, you go to the psychologist, psychiatrist, the counselors, and they begin to make suggestions. Well, you're going through this because maybe you had a trauma, you went through, you had an injury, you reopened that injury. So gambling is covering something. The reality, the truth be told, gambling is masking something in your life that you're not facing for some reason. Maybe you can't see it because it's not you against gambling. It really isn't. Gambling is just an effect of the cause or causes. A few years ago, my brother, now these are some, I'm going to share this with you because, again, just because you overcome problem gambling doesn't mean that your problems are over. They're not. Your problems are not over when you overcome problem gambling. You have to work through a series of mazes, if you will, to begin your new journey. And it is a new journey. It's a new experience. And you must be working on different things on a daily basis. My brother was having some breakdowns a few years ago. My brother's older than me. I just hit a birthday October 17th. I was born in 1966. That makes me 57 years of age, I believe. I was born in Puerto Rico. And I can tell you, I remember a lot of experiences that were not good. I remember a lot of experiences that my brother and I were in that were not good. My sister is suffering from trauma, severe trauma. She will never have a mind that can be like flourishing and thriving. Unfortunately, it's just not the case. My brother has been using heroin and other drugs very, very, very early on in life. And my brother he's always had a lot of relationships with the opposite sex for many years. I didn't understand that until recently. A few years ago, I went to visit my family and I had a conversation with my brother. He's currently in prison. He should be coming out, Lord willing, maybe in 6 months or so. I think they gave him a couple of years. So I had a conversation with him and I was trying to listen to him. He was hurting. He was breaking down inside. I didn't know why. I had no real clue. I do know today, looking back, I do know today that my brother has gone through severe trauma. Severe trauma. Some of which I've endured or gone through myself. So I understand now. I didn't understand my brother a few years ago. I couldn't understand him, why he was so angry, why he was angry at my mother, why he was angry at his own father, why the family was becoming distant from him. Why was he using heroin so much? Why was he willing to expose himself in front of family and didn't care about life and doing things even in my own mother's home that she was ashamed of, that said, no, you can't do this here. Eventually, my brother ended up in prison. I couldn't make out what he was going through. My brother was having a breakdown. My mother didn't even understand. She couldn't understand. She could never understand my brother. My mom is also an individual that has come from severe trauma herself, almost losing her life, being stabbed 5 times in front of our apartment. I went through a lot of stuff. Your own mother, I think I was probably 8, maybe 8 years of age when my dad stabbed my mother. He stabbed her 3 times in the chest, or two times in the chest and 3 times in the back in front of our house on a street one evening. And she bled. She lost all her blood. Luckily, there was an ambulance very close by that was able to pick up her body after losing all her blood and rushed her to a hospital that was nearby, and they were able to pump her body full of blood. She was, for about 2 or 3 months, I remember looking through a glass. So we went through domestic violence on top of trauma. I didn't understand. My brother was breaking down a couple years ago. It got really strange. Now I was doing semi okay, but I was still gambling. This was a couple years before 2014. I was still gambling. I was still going through my stuff, and I thought I had my life together, man. I really did. I had a decent job. I was making good. I thought I had my life together. I really did. I didn't know that I was going to get. I didn't know that I was going to get a curveball thrown at me because of something that happened to me, 50 years ago. I had no idea. But it began to happen as soon as I started breaking through gambling. As soon as I broke through gambling sometime, these signs began to show up in my life. And now I'm able to put the pieces together. Well, I haven't seen my brother in several years. I think we kind of left on terms like I was trying to understand him. I couldn't understand him. I was trying to communicate my message to him. He wasn't accepting it. Nobody in his world at that moment, all I could hear now is nobody wants to listen to me. Nobody understands me. Nobody knows what I'm going through. I've written my brother a couple letters since he's been in prison. And the last letter that I got from my brother was kind of enlightening to me. It was enlightening to me, and I hope the best for my brother. We've never been close. We've been distant. I left home when I was 18. I got out of that place. I got out of that town. I got out of that house. Subconsciously, something wanted me to get out of there, because now when I look back, I can see where I was headed. And it wasn't going to be a good outcome for me. I could see it now very, very clearly. They say hindsight is 20/20. Don't live in the past, but learn from your past. Don't live in the past. Somebody, you know what? I look back at the past because that's how you learn. If you don't look at your past, if you don't look at your failures, if you don't look at your childhood, the same mistakes are going to be repeated in your life. The same mistakes will be repeated. You will continue to get more of what you're already getting that you don't want in your life. You have to go back. You have to look at your life. You have to look at what's going on. You have to look at the foundation. Where did you start? How did you start life? Where did you come from? What catapulted you into life? What catapulted you into your beliefs, your values? Do you have values? Do you have beliefs? We all do, but some of them are completely wrong. MMPC and reverse. Out of time. I see you there. I'm almost out of time here. I want to thank you guys for listening to me here. So I wrote a letter to my brother, and I said some things to my brother. I said, Fernando, I remember the last conversation that we had together. We weren't really understanding, and I couldn't understand why you were so angry at Mom. I couldn't understand why you were so angry and why others are so angry at you. But now I can understand. You see, you and I went through trauma. You were beginning to face the symptoms, the collateral damage. You began to really feel that a couple years ago, and I saw you, but I didn't understand. Now you're in jail, you're in prison. Hopefully you're going to come out healed, and at least on your healing journey. I'm going through it. I just hit a birthday. My brother just hit a birthday in October. And I put in the letter, I said, you know, Fernando, I said, I'm sorry. I told my brother, I said, I'm sorry that we couldn't protect each other. I told him that. I'm getting a little teary-eyed because we were innocent children. We didn't know any better. We were taught to hold a secret. Maybe that's why I held a secret of gambling for so long. And I said, I'm sorry that we couldn't protect ourselves, but we didn't know any better. We were broken. My brother and I were broken at an early age. And now when I look back and I see my brother's life, my brother was broken all his life. And I hope that when he comes out of prison, I hope this letter that I'm sending him, I hope this letter kind of gives him an understanding of why he has been so angry. I've had 2 nervous breakdowns in the last couple years. Never expected to have nervous breakdowns. 45, 50 years, and then I come to have 2 nervous breakdowns that put me in the hospital. I didn't know why I was having a nervous breakdown, but I knew that my mind was battling with all kinds of things. I'm one of the good fellas. I will die with that. I'm one of the good fellas. I don't care what people think of me. I'm not really concerned of how people see me anymore. As long as I can stand on my own 2 feet and listen to my spirit, listen to my inner being when I'm in communication with somebody, when I'm in a situation in this world, because we face situations where you'll face, it's negotiations. You're always negotiating. And you know what? You're negotiating with yourself. Every time that you go and give in to this thing, that whatever it is that you give in, you are negotiating with yourself, and your darker self is basically overriding you. Your darker self is overriding you. And you must stand up and look inside and look at what is causing before it's too late. Before it's too late. That's the truth there. So I sent my brother the letter today. Actually, it went off in the mail today, and I hope to get a return letter. Possibly. I've never been close to my brother. I want to be close to my brother. I want to know, my brother's very smart. One thing I know about my brother, he's very smart, very sharp. But when it comes to proper decisions and the female and the opposite and all of that stuff, no. Just like me, we've been through our share of stuff, and we've done our damage, right? Whatever you're taught early on in life, you repeat it. Whatever you're taught early on in life, you're going to repeat it somewhere, either early on or later on in life. If that injury is not properly dealt with, protected, if you will, not covered up and just not dealt with, but protected, and you acknowledge. We walk around in life like, hey, your elbow's broken. It's sticking out of your arm. They just keep walking. Yeah, I know it's broken. Figuratively speaking, people keep walking. Can you imagine? You got people walking around, the bone is sticking out of their elbow. How ignorant, right? How foolish, how stupid that looks, but that's exactly what it looks like in the invisible. We walk around with bones sticking out of our arms and broken bones, and we don't look to heal it. We're expecting something to happen it's going to heal by itself. The skin will close. Yeah, it will eventually, but you're probably going to end up with a crooked arm or something. All right. No questions there. Got to have a snack here. I've been on here for 40 minutes. I appreciate those of you that are listening. You have a question, you got a concern, you got something going on. Tell you, we're facing some challenging times today. We are challenging times. That's why I really want to help the gambler, help the gambler achieve. Because, and I often say to myself, well, I'm not really offering coaching. Well, I am, but I'm not really offering coaching at this moment for gambling. Uh, but I do invite people to read the Bible, pray, and associate with people of like mind that you can draw strength from, because there's a lot of deceivers out there, man, and they will take advantage of you. I know there's a lot of people right now, especially if you're healing your life. If you're trying to heal your life, there's a lot of people out there that will try to take advantage of you. Unfortunately, that's life. That's a bloody sausage. You don't talk to your brother anymore? Yeah, sometimes you gotta do that. Bloody sausage, that is. Barry Bob Barry Robb says it was, is, and will forever be a coping mechanism for some people. And says Santos, I was scared. You know, I used to fear men, but I didn't quite know why. I've been able to more or less I've been able to heal through that. But there's times that I'm somewhere and I'll get next to certain men and I begin to feel something's not right, and it doesn't feel comfortable with me. I have to walk away. I notice that more than ever today. I've become sensitive to people's energy. You know, if if I'm doing something, if I'm purchasing something, if I'm making a negotiation with somebody, it's gotten so sensitive for me today that I can begin to, without even going too much further in the conversation, I can pick up on energy. And to me, that's a blessing, but it can also be a curse, because some people don't want you to know what they're thinking. Some people don't want you to know what's going on inside. If you get my, I do my best to manage my fear. Why? Because I'm not afraid to say this, but as a little boy, I was broken. My confidence was taken from me. All these years I lived. That's why I despise someone that steps on my value that I have today, that I own today. I despise those kind of people. I want to get away from them as fast as possible. Why? Because maybe you understand most of your life, most of my life. I didn't know this, but I was just being stepped on. And of course, I stepped on, right? If you're being stepped on, what are you going to do? You're going to step on. Is it right? No, it's not. And you cut it out immediately. Once you know it's wrong, you stop it. But there's people that just continue, 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 continue. I despise them. I despise what they stand for. I despise what they do. I despise who they are. How dare you? How dare you step on my value? And that's how you should be on the other side. You should look at gambling. As I mentioned, you need to look at why you're gambling. Look at the root cause. That's what's going to help you tremendously. But you ought to look at gambling verbally and say out loud, how dare you? How dare you step on my values? Speak directly to the gambling. You know, how dare you step on my values? Yeah, by the way, I'm sorry that you don't talk to your older brother. Hi, Liridan. I don't know about they live. We need to live, but I haven't seen the movie. I don't watch a lot of movie. I don't watch a lot of TV. I don't. I watch a little bit of clips, but I don't sit there and watch a movie for an hour and a half. I don't find any enjoyment in that. Now I can learn from certain movie clips and stuff like that, but to sit in it for an hour and a half, I just don't need it. I'd rather read a book or write in my journal or make a video. But what is the movie They Live? What is it about? Um, or have a bloody sausage, mate. You know, I'm glad. I'm grateful that I can smile. I'm grateful that I can smile through the shit that I'm growing through today. A few years ago, if I would have been going through this a few years ago, I don't know where I'd be. I don't know where I'd be. By God's grace. And I shared something else with you guys. You know, when you're a child, you block things out. You remember some of the trauma that you've been through, but you know, when you start really thinking about why, you know, it's kind of like blocked. Trauma can be so severe that your mind blocks it because you don't want to go there. You do, but you don't. You want to learn from the past, right? You want to learn from that trauma that you went through. A wanderer without meaning in life discovers a pair of sunglasses. Oh, I think I might have heard of that. Is it Ben Affleck or somebody plays in that movie? I'm not sure. Maybe I. You know what I do? I'll tell you. I do a lot of repetitive stuff. Um, I used to watch a lot of movies, but if I find something, a video, 5 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour video, I come across something and I listen to my inside. My inside says, watch this. There's something there for you. I'll watch it. I'll watch it twice. I'll watch it 3 times. If I see that it benefits me, I'll binge on it. I'll binge on it. I don't know. Somebody might say, well, what do you mean you're binging on videos? I'm binging on certain phrases and I just let them repeat over and over. That's why I repeat to myself over and over the same things also. So that repetitive begins to take your subconscious and it begins to kind of rewire it. And, you know, you do deep breathing and exercises, and you do all of this, and it begins to change your mind, and you begin to really see who you are, who you can be, maybe who you were supposed to be, right? But why so late in life? Why so late in life? I don't know why so late in life, but I guess it's better late than never. And I believe I have a message to share with people. I believe I have a great message. I'm one of the good fellas. And I know another thing I'm going to share with you. I know that they're blocking me online. I can tell you that's a fact. There's powers out there that don't want me to spread for some reason. I've noticed that over the years on my YouTube channel. I've noticed it recently on Facebook. I've noticed it on Instagram. I've noticed it more and more on TikTok. I'm not spending too much time promoting and sharing on those. I am and I'm not, because I'm realizing that it's basically they're shutting me down. They don't want to hear what I have to say. They don't want me promoting healing. They don't want me promoting the Bible. They don't want me promoting my story. For some reason, I see that happening. It's weird because, I've studied the analytics of channels, and I've seen people, I've known people that went on YouTube when I did a few years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, when I started doing things on YouTube, maybe 10 years, whatever it was. And I've seen people just blow up their channels. I'm like, what's wrong? Well, I don't have the best of videos. I'm kind of boring a little bit, but yet I've got a great message. I've come, man, where it's hard for me to believe. It's hard for me to believe where I've come from, because I should have been dead. I should have died somewhere back there. I should have, but I'm here. So I know God in his mercy has some kind of a plan for me to share what I'm sharing. This is what I feel. I feel generous here. I feel great when I do this. I feel liberated myself when I give out and when I come live online, something I've never experienced anywhere else. I'm hoping that somehow, like I said, I know that I asked for donations to support this mission, because I do put my money into this mission to get this out. I pay people to do things, editing and helping me with videos and stuff like that. So donations, by the way, if you feel supported, please support this mission. If you feel supported, and do a share, a comment, a like when you can, to help my channel grow, reach other people, because I don't know how long I'll be here, but if my channel grows, even when I'm gone, it'll reach more people. It'll help more people. And that's the goal of what we want to do, right? Yeah, we need to generate income. I would love to have all kinds of donations, but that's not the case here. A few donations come in, we use it. I do my best to provide my own living, which is something that I really need to be working on every single day, because generating income is not easy. It's not, I shouldn't say it's not difficult, but it's not easy, right? It's kind of complex, but once you put something together, you can keep it going, especially if it produces something for you, right? You find something, oh, it works, then you continue to make it happen. I'd love to coach people. I would love to coach with anyone that is struggling with an addiction, with gambling, and share what I've learned and what I do. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are not willing. They're just not there. Their mind is in a trap, and they'd rather take their money and pay other people that are causing them harm. You might be paying somebody in the casino, the card room, or the slot. Whatever. You might be betting on animals, and instead you're paying somebody else instead of investing in yourself. Lyndon, I was really lucky for some days a week ago, a few times with gambling with some money. But I just wanted just more, so I lost it all. Yeah. But thank you. That's kind of interesting, out of time, about that. God got all of us. Well, yeah, God's got all of us, but we have to understand that all of who is my question. I used to believe everything I hear. I used to believe everything that I read. I believe the Bible. The Bible has mistakes in it also, so I have to be careful when I read the Bible. I should understand what I'm reading. Nevertheless, I read the Bible. I depend and I trust in the Bible more than any other book. How did you deal with cravings and urges immediately after quitting? Well, I've tried many different things, but one of the key things that helped me was that I would kind of prepare myself to fight against these urges. So I knew they would come. Sometimes, you gamble for 3 days in a row. Sometimes you go twice a week, 3 times a week. You might gamble all weekend. So the cycle, right? When the temptation, because sometimes I would come home and I wouldn't gamble for 3 days. I think that's probably the most. I'd come home and I say, I'm not gambling no more. I'm done. I lost $700 last night. I'm not going back. 3 days later, I go to the casino. I won $1,200. I won $1,200. You know what? I'm back in the game again. I come back the next day because, hey, I just won $1,200 yesterday. Well, guess what happens now the next day? I didn't win those 12. I lost probably the 1,200 that I won the night before and then some. That's the game that I play. I would be so angry sometimes. I wouldn't come back for 2 days, 3 days, probably the max. And I've won a couple of jackpots. Out of 32 years, I might have won maybe 7 or 8 jackpots. That's why I can tell you it's a lie, man. You're not going to win. I used to think I'm going to become a millionaire here. That was my belief, man. I began building faith back there in 1990, reading the Bible, going to church, listening to Anthony Robbins. Man, I'm going to become a millionaire. I'm going to do it through the casino. And I was going, I think the most I won was $5,000 one day. And then I lost half of that too. So I was not a good gambler. I was probably the worst gambler. That's why I was probably the number one worst gambler. That's why I say today I'm the number one gambling annihilator, because I was number one losing. So the opposite. I trained my mind to believe I'm the number one gambling annihilator. I believe that today. Santos, did you lie to yourself? Well, if it's a lie, I lied to myself, but I got myself to do what I wanted to do. Right? And I believe, what is the number one problem gambling what is that? Who is that? Me. Why? I told you why, right? When, look at your life. If you're losing big down there, start telling yourself you're going to start winning big outside of that. You have to, again, it's about the trauma that you're going through and all of this, the scar tissue. You have to protect yourself. You make decisions. I'm not going to go. You got to protect that decision, because if you keep telling yourself you're going to do something and you don't do it, you're not going to believe yourself. You're just not. You're going to lose your confidence. You're going to lose your faith. You're not going to believe in yourself. People are going to know that you don't believe in yourself, and you're going to try to do things and it's not going to work at all. It's just not going to work, because people will see right through you that you don't believe in yourself. All right, I found the plumber. Let me see. I found the plumber. Hopefully that, and again, Barry, you're different than I am, right? Maybe guarding yourself against the temptation, or whoever else, maybe that's not going to work for you. What about if you began to write out a little plan for yourself, right? What you're going to do before you go gamble, right? You took 5 minutes off and you wrote 10 minutes and you wrote a little plan. What you're going to do. Well, Santos, that's just a figment of the imagination. Yeah, I wish I could do what I wrote down. No, don't wish. Begin to believe and begin to practice what you write down. So everybody's different, right? Just like when you eat a hamburger at In-N-Out or McDonald's or whatever, I like In-N-Out, lettuce wrap burger with 1 onion and a few pickles, light tomato, light cheese, fresh burger, light salt with a little bit of the sauce, wrapped in a lettuce burger. why am I talking about that? Well, we're talking about the cravings. Yeah. So the hamburger, right? If you ate the hamburger, your taste buds are going to be different than mine. Oh man, I got a burger just like you. It tasted the same way it tasted to you. It tasted to me. No, it may taste similar, but you experience something different from eating that hamburger. So whatever it is that you got to do, right, to prepare, you got to prepare ahead. And again, I'll tell you one way that you can prepare ahead. Look at why you're doing what you're doing. What is causing that? Attack the root. Go after the root. It's going to be a distraction, right? If you go after the root and you say, wow, you get caught up in that root. Wow, that thing that happened to me back there, or this thing that I went through, wow, that's pretty interesting. That could be causing me to gamble today. I need to investigate that. And you direct your focus towards that root. It can easily become a distraction for you to quit gambling. It can if you use it, or else you're just going to try to defeat gambling. You'll go to the casino, you'll ban yourself, which is okay to do. But again, you're going against the cause, right? You're just trying to fix the cause. You're just putting a Band-Aid. It's like you're trying to put, you're not protecting the scar tissue. You're not protecting the scar tissue. You go to the casino, you ban yourself. I can tell you some stories. I'll have to get into some more stories maybe on Sunday. And one time I got kicked out of the casino for cashing this guy's check for $1,200. And we got taken into the interrogation room by about 5 individuals. They didn't beat us up, but I thought they were. Anyways, I'm looking at your question here. So again, it's really about looking. If you have a business and your business is not doing well, right? You're not going to fire employees immediately. You're not going to let people go. You're not going to change your QuickBooks, right? You're not going to change your tax immediately. Oh, let's get rid of it. No, you're going to look for the root. What's causing this? What's causing this employee to come in late at least 4 times a week? Instead, we go to the employee, right? Employee, why? Let's look. How can I help you, employee? You're coming in, you're a good worker, but you're coming in late. How can I support you? Okay, because your contribution to the logistics of this is affecting this area, and you're good. I don't want to lose you. So you communicate, right? You come to an understanding. You come to the root. You get to the root. Well, maybe the guy says, "Hey, I can't afford an electronic rooster. Last one I had, I hit it too hard and it went out." Oh, okay. Well, that's the cause. Yeah. If I get an electronic rooster, I'll wake up on time. Your boss might cough up $15, $20 and get you an electronic rooster. You know what I mean. Not to take it lightly, figuratively speaking. Thank you, man. You just made my day there. Legend. City by the Bay, Linden. Yeah, maybe. A very underrated channel, Legend. Santos, helping a lot of people. Thank you. Question: how do you still believe that gambling? Question: do you still believe that gambling is an issue if the person has mastered money management? Well, that's a good question, but you have to ask yourself: do you still believe that gambling is an issue if the person has mastered money management? Well, again, my community is really for those that want to get into the PNGZ, the permanent no gambling zone. People that want to continue gambling, they're going to come through here. They'll come through a quick in and out. They might come back. You might come back. I tell you, because, once you get a taste of something good that can support you and help you, you're going to look for that, especially during these. I look for individuals, and I look for tidbits of information. And sadly, or I shouldn't say sadly, most of the time it's going to be through videos. It's going to be Google. It's going to be part of a book. It's going to be a webinar. It's going to be a seminar. It might be physically speaking to somebody. that I can trust, that has my best interest and value, or my best value and interest. You can speak to a psychiatrist, counselors, and people, and they will give you bad advice if they don't know exactly. And of course, if you don't know, imagine you go. I was listening to a testimonial of a woman that was living with a narcissist, and she went to a counselor, and she got a horrible story. The counselor said, you're just not open to this new way of living. And apparently she got married, and 9 years later, there was a horrible divorce. But for 9 years, this woman got sucked into a marriage by a narcissist. And so you have to know what's going on. Friends, you have to know. Guests, community members, you have to know what's going on, because if not, you're going to be depressed, and life is not, you're not going to want to live. You're not going to want to live. Eventually, you're going to get tired, and you're not going to want to live. And I've met quite a few of those along my journey, and they're not here anymore. I've even contemplated at times, but I'm here. I have to be here. And the way I think, even if I tried to kill myself, if it wasn't God's timing, I'm going to come back, and it's probably going to be worse. So, the thought of taking your own life, and people do, sadly, because their mind no longer works. And once your mind no longer works, it's over. It's over. All right, friends, I'm going to get off the airways because I see people are dropping off like flies. And I do want to thank all of you guys. Barry, out of time. Lyndon, City by the Bay. And there was somebody else. Who else was out of time? Yeah. All right, folks. Well, we'll see you. I'm going to be back here on Sunday. We'll take on the topic of depression on Sunday. We'll look at depression again, how to win over depression, and what is it? Where is it coming from? So do something good for yourself. Talk nice to yourself. Face your trauma. Face your defeat, and look at what's causing you all that harm. Look at the root. Don't focus on the effect. Look at the root. Coach Santos, I'll see you at the top on the inside on my very next one. And I have a spooky weekend, huh? It's Lyridan. Have a nice weekend. All right, buddy.